Okay, go.
Hi, everybody. It's Stephony Garrett here with eXp Realty and the Home Sync team. And I have with me Kelly Dooley from Cardinal Financial. And today is part 3 of a 3-part series that we were doing regarding purchasing a home. And today's topic is going to be what the home buying process looks like. So you're approved. We've got the search started. Now it's time to make an offer and move forward. So Kelly, take it away.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. So glad to be here. Yes, let's talk about the actual home buying process from making an offer to the closing table. What does that look like in between? Because the first episode we figured out what does it take to get approved, what that process looks like. The second video was I'm approved, what's the best loan for me? And now the final of 3 is what does the actual home buying process look like? So when you are approved, I would email Stephanie approval letter, and she would know what range of home prices to set up the search engine for you to go show you. So you find one with Stephanie, you make an offer to the seller and the seller agent, and Stephanie would write up the contract. And there are a couple out-of-pocket costs that you need to be aware of right off the bat. So when she makes an offer, let's just say $300,000 for this example. First thing that needs to be done when she takes the contract is earnest money. It's 1% of the purchase price. So you would write a check made out to the title company for 1%, which is $3,000 in this example. And then also on top of that, it's called an option check. And Stephanie, are those around, what are those, 150, 250? How much are those?
Those generally start about $150 and can go up from there, but they're never more than, say, maybe about $300.
Okay, gotcha. So you'd write an earnest money check, and then let's just say $250, and that's a non-refundable check. So that $250 goes to the seller, okay? So you write that check and you can take it to the title company. And what that does, it holds the house for 10 days. It's like a deposit. And this is your chance to get an inspection done. Highly recommended, not mandatory. Stephanie definitely would probably urge you to get that done. And these inspectors know you only have 10 days to get something going, and they can turn inspection reports usually in a day or two. Okay. And those are around $400 roughly. So you get the inspection done, and it comes back. You and Stephanie would go over it. They're going to make sure there's no major issues. They're going to check, the AC, the foundation, plumbing, electrical, termites. So guys, you got to be aware that these inspectors, it's their job to find fault. So don't take inspection reports. Don't look at every little thing. If there's a mark on the wall, they're gonna mark it on their report. Okay. So Stephanie and you will go over the report to make sure there's no major issues. For our example, let's just say the report comes back positive, no major issues, nothing to negotiate. The house is pretty sound. Okay. So at that point, that $3,000 that you're on a check for, the earnest money, that goes towards your closing costs. You get credit for that. Okay. Then I would email you what's called the initial disclosures. It's all the standard government questions. You work at ABC company, you make so much money, you're buying a house at this address, et cetera, et cetera. And these are all rough, high estimates in there as well. The government makes us show all raw costs to the buyer. Okay, there's no credits in there. Okay, so it's just all high estimates. The sooner you e-sign those, the sooner we can get the ball rolling. And as soon as you do e-sign those, we would put the appraisal up on in the system so you can pay for that. Okay, so you e-sign, you pay for the appraisal. That's roughly $600. Okay, and yes, you do get credit for that. So now you paid $3,000 in earnest money, $600 for the appraisal now, so that's $3,600 you get credit for. Unfortunately, the inspection you do not get credit for it because it's not mandatory. That's on you. So Once you pay for that appraisal, the management company, it's a true third party, not associated with us, not associated with the seller. It's a neutral party by law. They will find an appraiser. And once they find one, they let me know. And they also will let me know when to expect the results. And of course, I would pass that information to you and to Stephanie and the listing agent. But once they do find that appraiser, it's their job to call the listing agent to set the appointment, the time, and they'll go out there, take pictures, do all the measurements, come back, prepare the report, and they will send it to us first. Now that little process with the appraiser takes, and getting us the report back takes about 10 days, roughly 10 to 12 days. Okay. We get it first, like I said, we review it, then we pass it on to you. Now, 99% of the time, guys, that appraisal number comes back at list price or a little more. Let's say the appraisal came back at $305,000. The appraisal, you have to remember, is really to kind of protect you. We want to make sure if you're buying a $300,000 house that it's worth $300,000 or more. So let's say it comes back at 305. This does not change the terms of the loan. Okay, it does not make your monthly payment go up. Doesn't mean you have to bring more money. It just means you have $5,000 in equity. Okay, that's all it means. So yes, there are times it can come under the purchase price. I guess I could cover it real quickly because it does happen, not very often. Let's just say for easy math, it comes back at $295. A couple options here. Stephanie would have to go to the listing agent and say, hey, the appraisal came back at $295. There's a couple options. The seller can agree to come down to $295 because the appraisal said so. Or B, they don't have to if they don't want to, and they can walk. You get your earnest money back. Or the seller and you can agree to split that $5,000. He comes down $2,500. You bring an additional $2,500 for closing costs. Okay, or you might want the house so bad that you agree to bring all $5,000 in addition to the closing costs. Or you don't have to buy the house at all. If it comes in at $295 and they still agree to come down to $295, you don't have to buy it if you don't want. You can still walk. So there's a couple options there. I guess it's case by case, and that's Stephanie's job to negotiate and get the listing agent to figure out what's the best plan of action. Okay, so you get the appraisal back, and then what we do is we get with the title company wherever the closing's taking place, figure out the taxes. We don't start finalizing the insurance, their fees, who's paying for the title policy. And you would get what's called a preliminary CD, which stands for closing disclosure. And that's usually on average about a week prior to closing. Okay. And again, it would have estimated costs in there, a little bit tighter numbers, but not to the penny still. You would e-sign that. Okay. Has to be e-signed at least 3 days prior to closing to satisfy the 3-day rescission rule. All right. Once you e-sign that preliminary CD, then we can get with the title company again to finalize the numbers. Are there any credits, seller concessions, title policy, etc. We drill down everything, get your insurance. And I've got a great insurance person to use. I know Stephanie does too. Then about 3 days prior to closing, 2 or 3 days depending, we would issue your final CD, final closing disclosure. That would list to the penny what you would owe, and that is in the form of a cashier's check or a wire, okay? And it's made out to the title company, not us, not Cardinal Financial, but the title company. And this money for closing can come from multiple sources, guys. It doesn't all have to come from your checking or all from your savings or all from a gift. It can come from multiple sources. That's important to know. A little bit can come from multiple sources, and you send it to the title company. Now, sometimes your schedule gets really crazy leading up to closing. I can always give you a little bit of an inflated number. If you want to wire funds a week prior to closing, that's fine. They'll hold it for you. and they can issue you change after closing. So, the point is, reach out to me, reach out to Stephanie with any questions. So we're really good, Cardinal Financial. We will give the title company what's called a credit authorization to release funds before you even get to the closing table. It's called table funding. So as soon as you sign, you get the keys. You get to start moving. So that process that I described, from you and Stephanie making an offer to the closing table, all that in the middle is a roughly 25 days on average. It could be a little faster if you need it to be. It could be extended if you needed to as well. Okay, so that's what it looks like from making an offer to the closing table. And again, you need to be aware of those out-of-pocket costs, from the earnest money to an inspection and an appraisal. After that, there's no more out-of-pocket costs. Okay, and when you close on the house, let's say you close today on June 20th, you would skip July, and August 1st would be your first payment. So you always skip a month before making your first payment. And yes, you can make those online. We make it convenient for you, all that stuff. So that's what it looks like for buying a house. It's not, don't let it be daunting or freak you out. That's why Stephanie and I are here to hold your hand, answer questions, Stephanie will figure out the best, house for you. If there's any negotiable items, she's there to look out for your best interest. Me as well on the finance side, and we work well together. So that's what it looks like. Stephanie, did you have anything? Did I cover everything?
I actually have 3 points that I want to bring up real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
So the first one is regarding the option fee. So the option fee is actually credited back to the buyer now when you go forward.
Awesome.
The only time you lose that is if for some reason you terminate the contract, then that goes to the seller. As far as the appraisal is concerned, if the appraisal comes back above your offer price, the seller never knows what that amount is. We do not disclose that to the seller. That is only information for your buyer. That's it. And then can you explain to them about the VOE?
Sure. So what a VOE is stands for verification of employment. And we do that on the front end. So like when you're trying to figure out how much house you're approved to, you fill out the application, and we collect your W-2s and last 30-day paychecks. And what my processor does is reaches out to your employer to verify employment. And there's a form, and HR professionals, they see it every day, and they fill out the form on your behalf. Legally, they have to, not you, it has to come from them. And it basically states that you're employed, your income, if there's any OT involved or bonuses. And that's actually what helps us squeeze out some more money to figure out your gross monthly income. So yes, when we issue an approval, and Stephanie knows this, we've vetted you to the point where you're good to go. There's no oopsies with us. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. I just love sharing that information with people too, because they don't always realize that it's not just the documents that they provide you, that you go one step further to verify. Yep,
that's right, Stephanie. Well, guys and girls, let Stephanie and I help you get into a house. She's available, I'm available, and we'll take care of you. We'll hold your hand all the way through the process.
You have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.